Hey everyone, and welcome to a special episode of D&D Horror Stories. All stories in today's episode are ones that were posted to the d&Ddoge subreddit, and since it's Friday, they're going to be a bit more lighthearted than the ones I normally read on this channel. But first, Ziggy has a message for everyone.
Por favor, suscríbete. Cadena, por favor. Gracias.
That's very good advice, Ziggy. You must have a high wisdom score. But now, let's get into these videos. I almost TPK'd our party twice with 2 wild magic fireballs in a row. By Reddit user, Gentleman Octopus. Faced with 3 manticores, a couple sea lions, and a giant scorpion, my wild magic sorcerer tiefling promptly turned themselves into a potted plant. Attuned to a Feywild shard, I roll in the wild magic search table a lot, the most fun way to play a wild magic sorcerer, so this kind of silliness wasn't unusual for me. With the rest of our level 8 party backing into a corridor to bottleneck the combat, our invisible fighter grabbed me up and delivered me to safety, right in the middle of the party. As our opponents closed in on the corridor entrance, I twin cast haste on our cleric and rogue, rolling magic missile on my wild magic surge. On the next round, I cast something else that caused another wild magic surge, a fireball centered on myself, right in the middle of the party. Half of us went down instantly, including myself. The cleric and rogue managed to survive, but my haste was dropped, causing them both to be incapacitated for the next round. Our warlock survived, but lost concentration, dropping greater invisibility on our fighter, and he was now both visible and unconscious. Everyone was sort of annoyed, but it was hilarious at the same time. It really put a big twist on our plans for the fight as we scrambled to get everyone back to their feet using our surviving party members. As we healed what we could and braced ourselves for the attacking manticores, sea lion, and giant scorpion, I quickened a casting of Mind Sliver and Suggestion on the closest manticore to try and turn it to our side. With a Wisdom Save DC of 17, it rolled a natural 20. My Mind Sliver D4 reduction to their saving throw, I rolled a 1. I used Bend Luck to roll another D4 reduction to their saving throw, and I rolled another 1. With my Suggestion play a failure, I rolled on the wild magic table again. I joked that rolling another fireball would be hilarious, and then I cast Fireball again. Not only did I roll that option on the table twice, I literally rolled an 8 both times. That's a 0.1% chance. Our entire party went down, except for a polymorphed NPC wizard and our half-dead druid that had been standing far back in the corridor. Luckily, the NPC decided not to freak out and run away, as he has a fear of fire, but he rolled well enough to stay with us, and repolymorphed into a huge giant crab to block the hallway, while our druid worked to get our cleric back to his feet. While the cleric worked on healing as many people as he could, the sea lion ripped out our previously invisible fighter's guts, killing him. He was dead. I ran under the huge crab's legs to deliver a potion to revivify and save this guy who'd saved my potted plant ass earlier. He went down again soon after, but we eventually managed to bring him back, kill everything, and escape to a previous room to rest. The fighter suggested a lingering injury and rolled losing a foot, though he now has a badass spear peg leg. My tiefling, through hard sobs, said that Strixhaven never taught her that manticores could cast fireballs. I rolled a deception of 20, and everyone's insight rolls failed. I guess we'll never know who taught those manticores the fireball spell. This just goes to show that you never know what to expect in a game of D&D, especially when using wild magic. The chances of OP doing that twice, and at max damage, are astronomically unlikely. But at least it sounds like the rest of the table took it in stride and laughed at the implausibility of the whole situation. Hopefully, OP bought a lottery ticket after that session. It's a good thing that the fire didn't scare off the NPC and they were able to turn into a giant crab to help the party get out. They were just lucky that the manticore didn't attack its weak point for a massive damage. Let's move on. So, we shagged up the BBEG boss fight for the DM. by Reddit user Scrudgamir. Just what it says on the tin. We totally scuppered the big boss battle, all without knowing that we did. So, we're getting close to the center of the maze of caverns, and we walk into this one room. A statue in the corner started speaking and is telling us the history of the keep above us and the caverns beneath. A closer look, and we see that it's reading off of the scroll in its hands. Nifty, but not anything to be concerned about. The next room, however, there were those same statues at the cardinal points of the compass, and they started speaking as we entered. It sounded like magic words, and you could feel a power building. The mage does an arcana check, and it sounds like it might be a summoning spell of some flavor. Add to that the contents of the room, which included a black obsidian slab on the floor, blackened iron candles on either side, runes that didn't look friendly, and a skull at the center of the room, which was also the center of the slab. Well, we panicked. I told the war mage to cast Flaming Weapon on my sword, and I tear ass around the room, setting fire to the scrolls. The cleric cast silence since the room was circular and was 30 feet in diameter, so between the three of us, we stopped the summoning. The barbarian, being strong as an ox and twice as smart, walks over to the skull on the floor and admires it without picking it up, just for a second, and then pulls a Hawk Smash and bashes it with his magical warhammer. We then start collectively giving ourselves high fives for stopping what we felt might be a huge damn problem. Then we saw the look of stricken horror on the face of the DM. It's not like it was the big boss, we said. The look of stricken horror turns into a hangdog look of utter dejection. Oh shit, we said. It was the big boss? DM looked at the lot of us and said, "You all fucking suck," then broke into laughter. We did the endgame wrap-up, and afterwards, he told us that it was indeed a lich who was using this as a trap or way to get back to the material plane, only to find himself stuck in hell, all stressed up with no one to murder. We don't let him live it down, and keep telling new players to the group the story, to which he always flips us the bird and says that we all suck, while grinning. At least the DM thought it was amusing that all the players inadvertently beat the BBEG without even fighting them. Though the DM could have always had the magic scrolls, statues, and skull be protected by some sort of field to protect the summoning from being interrupted by a bunch of bumbling adventurers. That way they could have had the fight. But I suppose this was as good a way as any to wrap up the campaign. On to the next one. The Greatest Bluff by Reddit user WoolooMVP10. This is a story from my early days of playing D&D. I started playing it somewhere during 4th edition, and I really wanted to be a paladin, because I was the kind that liked to charge in and soak up damage, and liked playing the hero. I let someone make my character for me, since I was the new guy, and this was my first major campaign. All I asked was I was a human paladin, named Zach the Fair. Final Fantasy VII fan here. So he created a character tailor-made for this campaign, where giants were common encounters, by giving me a weapon that dealt bonus damage to giants, as well as being able to speak their language. Somewhere during the campaign, we were exploring a stronghold and decided to take a long rest inside of a closet after a few battles, and someone, I forget who, made it where it would be safe with a spell by making a pocket dimension or something that we could hide in. Anyway, after the rest, our DM tells us that we hear giants coming into the room right outside, and that they suspect something is in the closet for some reason. My best friend, whom we'll call John, decided to roll a bluff by pretending to be a cat. He makes a pass, but it wasn't enough to convince the giants to leave. Remembering that I could speak giant, I decided to make my own bluff to follow up on John's, and this is how it went. Me. Don't mind me, I'm just in here washing my cat. DM. Roll a bluff check. Me. Rolls a natural 17 and passes. The DM, as giants. Can I come in? I love cats. Me. You shouldn't come in. My cat is really angry when it's being washed. DM. Roll another bluff. Me. Rolls natural 16 and passes. DM, as giants. Okay then, but we think that there are intruders in here. Do you know anything about them? Me. Oh yeah, they went that way. DM, roll one more bluff check. Natural 20. And we all proceed to lose it at quite possibly the greatest bluff ever pulled. Well, I guess those giants didn't have a high intelligence score. Who would be washing a cat in a closet? Though, if I was one of the giants, you know I wouldn't have stopped until I was able to pet the kitty. And speaking of kitties, here's Alice playing with a string to try to coax you all into clicking that like button. That's worth a like, right? Anyways, let's get on to the final story. My Dice Wanting to Murder a Poor Player by Reddit user WooLooMVP10. For some context, I was part of a D&D group a few years before the pandemic and was offered up the chance to DM for a week when our normal DM was out of town. Since I don't DM but wanted to get my feet wet, I played it safe and printed out a simple Rescue the Villagers campaign. This particular game made me wary of being a DM ever again after what happened. I cannot remember what everyone played, but 2 players stand out. Jimmy the Bard, I think, and Rob the Broken. I say Rob is broken because he had a build that pretty much made him invincible outside of crits, and pretty much insta-killed anything that attacked him thanks to an aura or something he had active. But I paid no mind to it since it was a simple one-shot, so it wasn't an issue. Poor Jimmy though. We never spoke about it, and I never brought it up during sessions out of the politeness of my heart, but I could tell from his appearance and the way he spoke that he was mentally disabled. He's a real fun guy to hang around with, and we got enjoyment from him in the main campaign with his orc named Shrek and his love for onions. Apparently my dice had a disdain for him though. So anyway, the campaign. The party met the village wizard, who told them about some kobolds kidnapping a family and planning to cook them in a stew. He gave the party a map to where the kobold camp was located after spending half a day on a scrying spell and telling the party that he would join them as soon as he can after resting. So the party goes into the forest, where they get ambushed by giant spiders. They failed their checks, and the spiders get the first round. There were 3 spiders, and I decided that each one would pair off with a party member, which included Jimmy, Rob, and another player. Me. Alright Jimmy, the spider lunges at you. Roll my dice. Oh no. It was a natural 20. I lifted up the DM screen lent to me to show that I wasn't fudging rolls, and they couldn't believe it on the first battle of the campaign. So Jimmy gets hurt really bad. Me. Okay Rob, the second spider is attacking you now. I roll my dice. Are you serious? Natural 20 again, and it managed to hurt Rob through his aura, and after failing his con save, he lost his aura. After that first impression on my handling of battles, the party managed to survive the spider encounter without any casualties, despite the ambush crits, and proceeded further into the forest, where they find at least 20 or so kobolds and 3 big kobolds preparing the pot to cook the kidnapped family. And for laughs, I gave an extra bit of flavor by telling them they can hear the kobolds chanting around it, Ugu chaka ooga ooga. Anyway, the campaign had a branching path for how the players could approach it, either by sneaking around and saving the family unnoticed, or just charging in, Leroy Jenkins style. And I was letting the group discuss among themselves how they wanted to approach it. Then Jimmy decided, for whatever reason that I cannot remember, to walk out into the open and make his presence known. Staying in character for the kobolds, I tell Jimmy, all the kobolds hear you and look in your direction. The one stirring the cauldron and wearing the chef's hat points at you and tells the others, kill him and throw him in the stew. And then I told everyone to roll for initiative. I rolled a bunch of dice for all the kobolds, and as Jimmy was the only one they saw, he was the only one they attacked with clubs and slings. No joke, about every other attack from the kobolds was a natural 20, and I lifted the screen up multiple times, getting more and more stunned by my sheer luck at rolling 20s. I think some of the kobolds even rolled natural 20s on initiative. poor Jimmy got butchered and killed before he even had his turn, or before anyone could come to his rescue. The party managed to take care of the kobolds, and by party, I mean Rob, because he reactivated his aura spell before engaging, so any kobold that attacked him pretty much dropped dead, and my critical luck seemed to have run out from murdering Jimmy, because against Rob, I could not crit him once since the spider fight from earlier. The party ended up successfully saving the family and completing the campaign, and they asked if I had anything against Jimmy for killing him like that. For context, I said that the last kobold was going to deliver the coup de grace on a down Jimmy, meaning that he was going for the killing blow instead of holding back and simply dragging his unconscious body back to the pot. To which I pointed out that he was the only one that the kobold saw, since everyone else snuck around the camp to find the kidnapped family, and I was playing the kobolds as a serious threat that wouldn't hold back. Thankfully, no one, not even Jimmy, held it against me, and we're still friends after that, but it made me fear DMing ever again. After all the crits I've rolled that night alone, I fear that if I ever ran a game again, I would end up causing a TPK that was completely out of my control. Yeah, that is a bit lucky, or unlucky depending on how you look at it, but at least everyone, including Jimmy, was able to take that situation in stride. But I would say to OP, don't let this experience prevent you from DMing again. Good rolling and bad rolling streaks happen. It's just part of what makes D&D so great. And that will do it for today. Remember, if you have a story that you would like to be featured in a video, be sure to post it in the dndDoge subreddit, or even just contact me on Twitter. As always, I appreciate all of you, and hope you all have a great weekend. Until next time.